Hello there, and welcome to the webinar. Today we're going to be looking at using ZoomProspector for marketing your location. My name is Elisa Sklar, and I am the Director of Marketing here at GIS Planning. I will be spending about the next 30 minutes or you talking about the different ways in which we can be using your ZoomProspector site. And I just wanted to let you know that I will be sending you an email link afterwards with a recording of the webinar, so you can share it with your colleagues or review as you like at your own convenience, because there are some links within here that may be of interest to you. In addition, if there are any questions, I would encourage you to save them for the end, because I'm going to go through the session itself first, and then I'll be very happy to monitor whatever questions you actually have at that time. So let's take a look at what we're going to be discussing today. We're going to be looking at the ways in which you can leverage the investment that your organization has made in your ZoomProspector Enterprise Site Analysis tool. We're going to talk about ways in which you can make sure people can actually find the tool on your website. We're going to look at ways in which you can use your ZPE Site Analysis tool for social media content. We're going to look at promoting your ZPE Site Analysis tool as part of your EDO suite of services. And we're going to be looking at ways in which you can mine the site analysis tool for information and visuals that you can use in different forms of marketing for your location. So let's start with making sure people can find you. Now, we all know that site placement really is key. We know, for example, that if you made the investment into this kind of beautiful, powerful, state-of-the-art vehicle, that you wouldn't want to hide it in your garage. You would want to make sure that it gets out there, it gets used, and that other people can enjoy it. Same is true for your ZoomProspector Enterprise site, in that we've noticed that on some of our client sites, it can be quite difficult for users actually to access it, and this certainly can impact your traffic levels there. And in fact, sometimes finding that site is a little bit like a scavenger hunt. We want to help you avoid that. In some cases, we've noticed that it can be as many as 5 clicks away from the homepage. And the truth is, people don't tend to go along very complicated paths on the internet. Chances are they won't even bother. Probably you wouldn't either. So in this one example, we noticed that in order for people to find ZoomProspector Enterprise, they had to go from Programs, click on Economic and Community Development, click on another ED site, find available sites, and then click through a final time. Perhaps the link is also on a home page, but hidden in a corner, or uses language that isn't actually obvious, or stands off on just on text alone, so that it becomes difficult to actually see without any accompanying images, as you'll see in this particular example over here. We found this image of an eye tracking analysis of a website, and this is really quite interesting, because if you look closely, what you're actually seeing is that while images may help direct people's attention in a particular way, what people tend to do is start off in the upper left-hand corner, which makes sense because that's how we read in English and in many other languages as well. They tend to spend most of their time looking at the text itself. They do follow along to the tabs at the top. You'll see that's actually quite visible as well. There's almost no attention paid to anything that's below the fold over here. So these types of analyses are very important when it helps us decide what sort of information we want to actually put where on the sites that we offer to our public. So here's a couple of good examples of ways in which people have done it well. So on the Indiana site, you can see that it's quite clear where the ZoomProspector site analysis tool is, because it's both visual and it's prominent, and it's set off in a different color with a graphic. And the New Jersey site, you can see that it's also really quite clear. Not only is it highlighted as a new feature, but it's set off visually and with text in the center of the site. Over here on the Calgary Regional Partnership page, you'll notice that Explorer, their access to the GIS site selection tool, is also quite clear, and it's set up visually along these 5 different themes or categories. It makes it easy for people to find. If you're interested in website design and want to see more about this that aren't necessarily just related to ZoomProspector, I suggest you take a look at this particular link, which looks at 25 different points that people can use to check whether their website is highly usable and tends to be effective. So let's review some of the best practices for this section of the presentation. We want to ask ourselves, is our ZoomProspector site selection tool integrated properly into our homepage? Would a first-time visitor quickly find a clear path over to the ZPE link? And this is really an important question. We know that some of our clients have actually taken advantage of doing blind tests with first-time visitors so that they can make sure that they actually see it. If you give them a challenge, for example, see if you can figure out how to locate the population of our location or a particular community, see if you can figure out how to apply for a business permit, and let these testers on and then follow the tracking that they actually do. It really can tell us a lot about the usability of the site. We can ask ourselves, is the ZoomProspector Enterprise application more than one click away from the homepage? Each additional quick click that we ask people to go through in order to find the site analysis tool significantly downgrades the possibility that they will ever actually take the time to get there. We also want to think about the language that we use for that kind of link. Is it clear and descriptive? So some of the things that our clients have used are things like a GIS site, a site selector site, a property database. We have particular affinity for the term site analysis, and I'll show you a little bit more about that in a minute, because in fact your ZoomProspector Enterprise application is so much more than a mere property database, and including the word analysis in there lets people know that they can get all that interesting information about demographics, industry, businesses, etc. You want to consider whether you've got an image alongside your link over to the ZoomProspector site, because that tends to catch people's attention, especially if the image is done well. You want to ask yourself, is it above the fold? When we talk about above the fold, what we really mean on a website is, are they going to have to scroll down to find the link? Because people don't tend to scroll down. So anything that is really important that you want people to click through to has to be on the top part of the site that they first see when they actually log into it. You want to ask yourself, are there links from multiple pages on your website over to your ZoomProspector Enterprise site? One of our clients just shared with me interesting analytics that only 22% of their ZoomProspector Enterprise site users come in from the homepage. And that's really important because we know that people can find it in all sorts of different ways. People are using Google search and they might end up, in fact, on your, all sorts of different information about your site and not come in from that central portal, that first portal. And so you want to make sure that you've got multiple links on many different pages so that they can still find you. You want to ask yourself, does your EDO logo link back to your homepage? Sometimes people get confused when they're navigating websites, and we all know that it's best practices to make sure that our EDO logo, which is usually in the upper left-hand side of our website, that will take them back to the homepage at some point so that they can go and see, figure out where they are, orient themselves. And then asking yourself, is there a clear contact us form on every page? I spent a lot of time on economic development organization websites, and you would be surprised to note how few of them have very clear and obvious ways to contact people at the economic development office or organization itself. Sometimes there's just a form that people need to fill in and then wait for someone to get back to them, which in some cases they actually don't. You really want to make sure that you have clearly listed phone numbers, staff directory, email addresses so that people can quickly and easily get in touch with you if they have some questions, because after all, that's the whole reason that we're there, right? Okay, let's move on to the next section, which is looking at how you can use your ZoomProspector Enterprise site for social media content. Now, some of you may be using social media tools more than others. We know that social media is something that is being used much more in economic development, and every year we see exponential increases in the number of people who are using the different social media accounts, whether that is Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Flickr, YouTube, for example, in order to communicate information about their organization and engage with the people in their community. Now, the nice thing about using social media and using the content from your ZoomProspector Enterprise site is that it lets you build strong relationships with the real estate agents, commercial real estate professionals in your location by sharing some of their content as well. So one of the things that we suggest, because one of the challenges with social media, of course, is finding this constant source of fresh content that's relevant and interesting to put up there, but your ZoomProspector Enterprise gives you this on a constant basis. So posting a featured site or property of the day or every couple of days, you can post those on Twitter, Facebook, on Flickr, which is the photo sharing social media network, or on your LinkedIn profile page. And when you do this, you can post not only the information about the property, sometimes the property image itself, the link back to your ZoomProspector website where they can find it, and possibly even the link over to the real estate agent who posted it in the first place. They really like that. And it's a nice way for you to encourage brokers to list with you by letting them know that you're going to be working to drive additional traffic to their sites and listed properties in this way. You can also post a featured business of the day, or several times a week post featured businesses. And we know that a common complaint in economic development from business community is that so much attention is paid towards attracting new business and not always to engaging the businesses that are already there. Well, this is a clear and obvious way that you can post links back to those businesses themselves and help promote them. You can find the businesses on your ZoomProspector enterprise site, and that becomes quite a nice way for you to send them in that direction, include their URLs as well. Now, obviously, this provides content, but it also is a great way to build rapport and showcase them as valuable contributors to the economy in your area. So here's a couple of examples. We found a hockey supply company in Buffalo, New York, and you can see all sorts of information, including their actual location on the map, as well as their website, revenue, and all of those different kinds of things. Another example here is from the city of Maricopa in Arizona. We have a trucking company, again, their website and some information about them, including their actual location is there. So you can just use your ZP site anytime you want to find existing businesses, sites, or properties to list. They're all there right in front of you. Just to show you an example of how I actually do this on GIS planning social media feeds, I like to post featured clients several times a week. And in this case, you'll see that we've featured, I think it was yesterday, the day before, Sioux Falls, North Dakota. I like to take a tidbit of information from the organization website, and then I post the URL back to their ZoomProspector site as well. Now, this is nice because it gives you the link back to your website. So it is a backlink, which is important for search engine optimization, which I'll talk about again in a moment. But it also, what I'd like to do if you're on Twitter is I'll look for your organization's Twitter name, and then I'll put that in the content of the tweet as well, so that you get a notification anytime someone mentions you. And it's just an additional way for me to give you that kind of information. Now on LinkedIn, you can use your EDO company profile page, and you can also consider starting a group for business and corporate real estate professionals in your location, if you have not in fact already done that. Now, both of these vehicles on LinkedIn are free and easy to use for anyone to do that. And in both of those places, you can use your ZoomProspector application to be able to drum out all sorts of different content, in business of the day, that sort of thing. Here's an example from the Pittsburgh Regional Alliance. They've started a group for their professionals in their area, and they can post all sorts of information. Now, those of you who are on LinkedIn and belong to other groups may be aware that many moderated groups prohibit you from kind of self-promotion. Some groups are open and you're allowed to do that, but the higher quality groups don't allow it. The nice thing about having your own group and promoting engagement and sharing of information, crowdsourcing, problem solving, promoting different kinds of activities from your organization is that you as the moderator get to choose exactly what goes on that site. And so it's an excellent way for you to promote businesses and different sites and properties in your area. Now, both of these places, obviously, as I said, are appropriate. That is both the company profile page and the group that you might want to start on LinkedIn. Now, people can follow the company profile page, and they can also join your group. It just takes a little while to build a kind of critical mass of followers and fans. Here's another example of a way in which I post regular featured clients. In this case, again, Sioux Falls, North Dakota. This is on the GIS planning company page, which we invite you all, of course, to follow for regular updates. And when we put it out there, all of our followers get to see it. And the nice thing is, if anyone likes it or shares this particular update or comments on it, then all of their connections get a chance to see it too. So each person who does that exponentially increases the number of possible impressions and ways in which that can be put out there. And of course, every time a link to your site goes out there, it improves your search engine optimization. This is an example of the analytics that LinkedIn gives you. So you can see for a particular post how many impressions or people saw it, how many people clicked through, how many people maybe shared the exact same post, and what kind of percentage of engagement you might actually have had for that. And so if you're tracking your ROI for different kinds of marketing activities, then most of these social media networks will give you kind of your own analytics that you can put to work in any kind of reporting that you need to do. Now, when it comes to posting on social media, Google loves Google, and that's really important because you always want to be thinking about your SEO or search engine optimization. And because Google loves Google, it gives a higher quality ranking to anything that is posted on their products, such as YouTube or Google+. For those of you who aren't familiar with SEO, just a quick definition of what it is. Basically, it's the process of improving quality and volume of a site based on certain techniques to help a site accumulate a higher ranking within search engines. And in order to do SEO, there's all sorts of formulas and secret, ways of putting this together. But basically, it comes down to links to your site on other people's sites, including social media networks, optimizing keywords in content and encoding, and removing barriers such as being blacklisted from particular kinds of search engines. Now, some of the bigger organizations may have CEO experts or consultants that work to do this for you, but I know that many smaller organizations don't do that. So this just gives you kind of a ability to think about those kinds of things. Now, we know when it comes to SEO, posting images and video is really powerful. That really gives you a lot of bang for your buck when it comes to search engine optimization. But Google is not able, or any of the other search engines, they're not able to index the content or images from your pictures or your videos. So you need to include a keyword optimized description for anything you post on YouTube or Vimeo or Flickr, wherever it is that you choose to do, with the URL, because then you have a backlink now to your site for all of your posts, and this helps improve rankings and traffic. And this is one of the ways that you can quickly figure out what are the right keywords to use. So this is called the Google AdWords Keywords tool, and it is free, although if you have a Google email address, then you can save your searches and run campaigns. What you do is you put in the words or phrases over here in this section. You can choose the category, and this time I've chosen business and industrial, and then you do a search. And what you'll see over here, which I found quite interesting, is that actually there are many, many more searches for the word site analysis than for word site selection or location analysis. And that's really quite a significant difference over here. So that means site analysis may be a much better choice to use in your descriptions. The other thing we can see over here is that competition is quite low. That means there aren't very many other websites out there that are using those particular terms. Sometimes we need to balance high competition with the number of searches. So this is really a useful, quick way for you to determine what kind of words or language you might want to use in your descriptions. Here's a couple of examples. Over here on the Pure Michigan site, you can see that on their YouTube channel, they've got a very successful YouTube channel with over 51 videos. These are very short profiles of different businesses. And not only do we see the word Michigan figuring many times in the description, but we can also see that they've posted a short keyword optimized description with the URL back to their site. So that's really useful for SEO. Here's another example. This is from the Greater Halifax Regional Partnership at Nova Scotia, and they've also done a series of business profiles and information for businesses in their area. And you'll notice on the bottom that they actually also have quite a long description. That is also very well optimized for keywords. And at the very bottom, you'll see they again post two different links back to one to their Twitter feed and another one back to the organization itself. So all of that is a useful way to improve your organization's search rankings. Now, of course, because your organization has made the investment in your ZoomProspector Enterprise Location Analysis tool, you want to make sure that the world knows you offer this service to the users who are out there. This is one great example. If you look up Pinellas County Economic Development on LinkedIn, they have a organizational profile page. That's what this is. And if you click over here on the service tab, you'll see a description of one of their services, which is the Pinellas Commercial Real Estate Database and Site Selection Tool. So this is really an excellent way for them to announce to people what it is that they can offer, and it's a different portal that people can use to get into it. Now, they can follow Pinellas County up here by clicking on that, and they can also recommend this site selection tool, which means that all of their contacts will be able to see that that's in fact what they've done as well. Now, the service overview is very well phrased. It's brief. It uses bullet points, which I always like because it's easier for people to read. It uses lots of keywords that are really quite useful and quite critical, and it means that people are going to be able to find out about this tool being offered on Pinellas County Economic Development homepage. Now, here's a really interesting thing. If you go over to Google and you Google Pinellas Site Selector, one of the first thing that turns up is not actually the site selection tool itself or even any of the media coverage of it, but it's that LinkedIn page, because Google loves LinkedIn. And so if you've put it up there, then you pretty much guarantee that people now have a clear portal right through to the site itself. It's a clear path. And so putting something like that on LinkedIn is a really valuable way for you to be able to communicate what it is that you're doing. And that's really useful for making sure that you've got good appearance in your search rankings. Now, you can promote your ZoomProspector enterprise tool in the following ways. In your description of services on your website, on LinkedIn and other social media sites, as I just showed you, in RFPs, because you want to show how you're actively attracting business and economic development in your region, in press releases outlining your EDO's activities at trade shows, in other forms of marketing collateral as well. So there's all sorts of ways in which your investment in ZoomProspector Enterprise can be used to help you showcase what your EDO is offering to other users. Let's take a look at how you can now use your ZPE tool for information. Now, this is important because your ZoomProspector web service is so much more than a mere property database. In using this information, you're able to take advantage of the analytical components and functionality to generate important tidbits of information that you can use in all kinds of ways for marketing. So for example, let's say you want to show that the section of your population has grown. Again, you're looking for content. This is something you can use in newsletters, you can use it on social media, you can use it in all different kinds of reporting. But the nice thing about ZoomProspector is you don't just come up with a list of boring numbers, but you can generate these really lovely images that show you exactly how the 30 to 39 year old segments of your population settled in different areas. And that may be really important for workforce information. You might want to show that there's an emerging cluster of businesses in a growing industry. This is important because people who are related to that industry, in that industry itself, who supply it, or any of those kinds of things. And this is ways in which you can show it. In this case, we're looking at a sector of transportation industries in a region in Florida. And you can actually visually depict it, which is quite useful because at a glance, people can quickly see what it is that they're looking for. And it also looks very nice and reports very attractive. And you can also give them the more detailed results, at different organizations, industries, and businesses as they're involved there. Now, perhaps you have a detail in a custom defined area of your region that you want to show off, and you can illustrate this with a map. In this case, we're looking at the polygon tool. You can customize the actual area you want to show off, or you can use a radius as well. And in doing this, you can show all sorts of information around a particular site, business, location, point of interest, hospital, airport, etc. You can use your ZoomProspector Enterprise tool to compare the demographic information between two communities. So in this case, you can see how Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and Philadelphia, Pennsylvania compare. You can look at community, at labor force, at demographics, at consumer spending. There's really a wealth of information that you can take advantage of in your marketing and in all sorts of internal reporting that you might be wanting to do. Another thing you can show off is educational attainment. Again, this is a heat map. We're looking at a section of New Jersey in this case, but it really gives you very clear information that is really at your fingertips and can be used for all sorts of different purposes. So what are some of these purposes? You can use them for marketing collateral. You can use them for social media posts, certainly. You can use them for press releases. I know that in many economic development agencies, being able to provide this information about business, industry, labor force, demographics to elected officials or to people who might need to have this information about their location, what a lovely, quick way to be able to generate this information and then provide it to the stakeholders in your area who might need it for different reasons, and also to include in RFPs. So let's take a look at the checklist overall that we might be able to consider from the things that we've talked about. First of all, we want to think about whether your ZoomProspector Enterprise Site Analysis site is easy to find from your EDO's homepage. In many cases, in too many cases, it's a bit of a treasure hunt to be able to track it down. So let's think about the best practices we can use to make sure that your investment is properly showcased. You want to think about posting sites, properties, and or businesses of the day on your social media feeds, both to showcase the kinds of things available in your community, but also to drive traffic to the corporate real estate professionals and businesses that are your stakeholders. You want to actively promote your ZPE location analysis tool as part of your EDO suite of services. You've made this investment in a best-in-class tool. You really want to make sure that people know that it is available for them to use. And you want to think about ways in which you can use the valuable demographic, labor force, business, and industry data that is available on your ZPE site in your different marketing outreach and for internal use as well. Now, I'm always open to different ideas that other organizations have or different people have about ways in which you've used your ZPE site. So I encourage you to let me know and share those with me. I'm always writing blog posts and looking for new ways in which that can happen. If you are interested in keeping on top of the different strategies we come up with, I encourage you to visit our blog page where we regularly come up with different ways in which different organizations can make the most of the site that they have, and not just in terms of ZoomProspector Enterprise, but to look at broadly economic development online, the important trends, strategies, and tips that people can use to take advantage of it. I encourage you to email me if you have any questions that you don't want to address just in the webinar here today, asklar@gisplanning.com. And you can also, of course, tweet to us at ZoomProspector or at GIS Planning. Thank you very much for your time, and keep an eye out for future webinars on strategies and practical tips for using your ZoomProspector Enterprise location analysis tool. Thank you for your time.